What's happening, everyone? It's Tank and Kurt here tonight. We'll wait for some people to join, and we'll start talking about different setups for KO24 off-road racing. Give people a couple minutes to pull in here. How's everyone's day been today? Fun and exciting? Or boring waiting to get home and play with tiny trucks? Anyone happen to catch the races at all this weekend? They're pretty decent. Couple technical issues. We got to learn the lap setup better for the transponders and stuff. I was going to do something, but I'm in the wrong profile. Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know where it will take us either. We will find out. All right, well, we waited a couple minutes here. So, what should we start with? I guess let's start with a Comanche. It's nothing super special at all. It started life as a deadbolt, and it hasn't really changed that much. LGRP tires on there, some Endura wheels, and one of my Tinker Time Comanche cabs with mag mounts. Stick my battery in the Velcro. Makes for nice, easy changes and easy mounting. And I did the first actual mod this thing has got, other than the cage and sliders this week, was a SAX motor. And this little truck, it's a pretty hot motor and it's a lot to handle. It's going to take a minute to get used to driving this thing again because it just rips now. It lands and it does wheelies. It's almost too much motor. Like, I see a lot of people out there, they want to put these big KV motors in. You could go for it, but I think it's going to kill you in the end. Like, that power can be nice when you need it, but one bad bounce and a blip and you're gone. I've yet to try the brushless, but I've got a lot of other 10 scale rigs and a lot of other brushless stuff. And I just don't think this would work for it, too. I mean, especially with some of these open can outrunners like the Furtech, you're getting grit and shit when you're racing, and you do not want that motor. That will be a quick short into it. Maybe a small sealed cam, but we'll have to see. I'm anxious to see one out on the racetrack at some point. I didn't even do anything really special for the suspension. I'm still running the stock tray up front and stock shocks. Still stock shocks in the rear. And they're just in the multiple mounting points that I've got on the cage here. Kind of dark to see in there. Luckily, we got light. That's not where I said to hold it. You can kind of see him down in there. And see on my ESC here, I've got my little transponder. It's the KO24 MyLap system, right?
Easy Lap.
Easy Lap system. They work pretty good once you get it all figured out and set up. It's definitely the way to go because then you don't have to count your laps out. I guess next we could look at one of the LSL trucks. You want to go over your number 80, Kurt?
Yeah, just take a look here. Basically starts off, you know, still the same stock C10 that it looks like now. You know, added some Little Guy Racing tires and some Endura rims. That's pretty much like one of the first upgrades that's used to be a necessity. Now we've kind of built the track for a little bit more rollers, so you could use stock tires if you wanted. But pretty much everybody's running these bigger tires of some sort, which just gives you a nice little upgrade to the racing. And then we have some hot racing shocks on both the front and the back.
I see you're running a little bit of cant here, so you get a little different suspension handle with all the weight you got on yours.
Yeah, definitely been playing with it a little bit. You know, one of the easy upgrades that you can do without really putting any money in, just, you know, literally moving position of the shock back and putting it in here, gives you a little bit higher stance, which gives you some more, you know, some more cushion coming off the jumps. And then we got, what do you call this part again here?
Oh, that's the low bolt rear mount.
Low bolt rear mount from Tinker Time in the back, just so I can have all these different mounting points. Like every couple millimeters there's a different hole, so you just, you know, can literally play with it, and there's endless different setups. Lately I've been running the rear shocks upside down, kind of like a play of like what some of the guys are doing with the crawler stuff, kind of, you know, in theory putting the weight down lower, giving me a little bit more shock up top or spring on top. Not really much of a difference that I've seen, but it looks cool. Then in this truck we have the Power Hobby Shark motor with a hot racing heat sink on the side here.
Those Shark motors are great little motors. Like I'd say that's one of the top 3 upgrades if you want to start KO24 racing. It's the easiest thing to do is throw a Shark motor in.
And with the axles here, we're running some hex extenders, brass hex extenders, both the front and the back, just some cheap Amazon deal. Then also the brass knuckles on the front. It's probably going to get some diff covers also this week, but I just didn't want to add the weight last week. I don't want to run it without, but I think the rear could use a little bit more weight with the diff covers. It all comes in Amazon, you know, a cheap kit type thing. And then just a couple metal bumper mounts, metal bumpers, both the front and the rear of the truck. I don't know. We raced for probably 6 or 8 months with the plastic ones. They're still fine. These trucks really take the abuse of the racing, and they really don't break all that often, like physically break parts. You might lose a screw or something might come unscrewed. But we haven't been replacing parts per se. Like I haven't seen very many that broke because of like the way that we're driving or anything like this. We've had some things, once you start hopping up motors, you know, then you're going to have issues or you start messing with axle shafts and stuff. You know, you might have some things go on.
Yeah, like I've been running the Comanche since we started, and it's still Oh yeah, you got the links too.
Then we just had some cheap Amazon. I don't even know the name of them. Some links for underneath a little bit more strength. The stock ones are starting to get a little bit sloppy, and I thought rather than just replace them with stock ones, might as well put some aluminum under there, a little bit more low weight.
I'm still running stock deadbolt links on mine. It's still even got the stock 3 link up front. I've done that little to this truck, and I've raced this pretty much since the start. This is either always my go-to truck, and it's always my backup truck if Latatorius is throwing a bitch fit and doesn't want to race that night. The Comanche is always down to run. Let's see, what do we want to look at next? We can go over the succubus. It looks so good with that Willys cab on there. So good. That bitchin' paint job Melissa did. Her number 23 on top. Now hers the C10 chassis, or at least link setup. Mag mounts with our Willys cab. And she's running high mount sliders and the bleeper pointy rear cage. We tried something different this week with the suspension. We limited it, put the shocks really up and down, so there's, as you can see, there's hardly any travel to it. I mean, that's it. It's about half the normal travel, which already isn't very much. It seems to go pretty good. She's running mudslingers on RC 4-wheel drive, stamped steelies, done deep dish style. Like a lot of the V1 ESC problems I've seen, her motor side, ESC side burnout. So she's running a Lizard with a Bluetooth on it, and she's running one of those Shark motors too. Shark motors and big tires, those two things, and you're ready to go. Let's see. Yeah, she's still running stock setup up front. Took like 6 months of racing, I think, and it broke her servo finally. So she's running one of the Power Hobbies servos up front. And it's got metal Endura high clearance links on it. The Endura aluminum skid plate. It works out pretty good. Like, yeah, and this is my girlfriend's first time really getting into RC stuff, and it doesn't take much. I mean, she's won quite a few races. It doesn't take a bunch of speed. It just takes being a good, consistent driver. I'm heavy on the throttle, so I end up upside down half the time. Yeah, just a nice setup. Oh yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, she's running the +4 kit in the rear and stock width up front. Let's see, I think the Comanche's running a +4 kit too. Hot Racing. Or No Name, pretty much same difference there. Let's see, what do we want to look at next? Let's check out this hot-ass pink truck.
All right, this one is number 69, Whisker Biscuit. Got a custom paint job from Tinker Time. Pretty much a lot of stock parts on this one. Just has some hot racing shocks, Once again, the upgraded tires, wheels, and then hex extenders. And that's pretty much, I mean, this truck, Shark motor, and then, yeah, there's the Lobo kit on the back. So there are a couple upgrades to this one, but it runs, you know, it pretty much is ready to be adjusted. This one here is my girlfriend's truck, and, you know, she still has to see how she likes driving or her style of driving, you know what I mean? And then we'll start adjusting it to how she likes. There's not a lot of weight on this, so it's really pretty top heavy, bounces around a bunch. But it's a really fast truck out there, being that there's no extra added weight. So I think, you know, we won't have to do much to this one. Maybe add a little bit more lower weight and get her, you know, some experience. Because once again, you know, just like Brandon's girlfriend, this is first real experience driving an RC. So, you know, going back and forth in the turns and all of us bashing off you don't really, we don't take it easy on anybody really out there. So it's Rubbin's racing, and, you know, if you're in front of me, I'm gonna move you out of my way pretty much. And with these heavier trucks, you know, you just move these little guys, you know, lighter trucks right out of the way, or a truck with more speed is obviously going to be able to push you right out of the way. So that's kind of part of the fun too. But, you know, with this truck, if you stay consistent and you'll stay ahead, you know. I mean, that's kind of part of it. While everyone else is smashing behind you, you're doing laps.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed too is, like, you're not always going to be racing like in a forward, straight ahead line. Like, okay, I'm on the line right now. Just don't get those super dirty. Stay out of the mud. So, yeah, make sure you practice your backwards driving too, because you might end up upside down and turned around backwards. You never know. See, let's look at Gladiatorius here. This is by far my favorite truck to run. And I'm mean to him. I run him hard, really hard. I beat the crap out of him because he likes it. I got it cut in half, and I'm running like this Baja back half kit. I thought about releasing, and I just never ended up, because it ends up being quite a bit of work to cut the truck in half, and then to get everything to work right with the printed hinge and the bottom hinge, there's a little adjustment to it. Oh, Katie, we would, but we didn't bring your truck. You can be on the next one, Katie, and you can come talk about your truck and bring it. It's yep. Run the mag mounts. I ran a servo extension wire to get power to my piece here. So I want to do that so I don't rip it off. I've got mine on the Spectrum SR315 receiver because I'm running it on my DX5 Rugged. Oh, look, I left the battery in here. That's funny. Yeah, I'm still running the stock servo that came with the Gladiator up front, surprisingly. Like, I ordered this when they first came out, and I think I had it 3 days before I had big tires on it. Running, these are hard to see in here, but they're Tinker Time Twister wheels. The lightweight resin printed wheel I've been experimenting with. And I've got the full low bolt kit on this. Got the rear set up, which gives you a ton of options for the top and the bottom for your shocks. So you can go stock or tilted or way tilted or double barrels. And then I've got just standard mag mounts on there. And I've got my body cut, and I like the pinch on it. So that's why I'm running standard instead of the new Gladiator ones we're coming out with. And up front, I'm running the full low bolt kit on there. It's kind of hard to see under my ESC and stuff. I'm just using just the battery tray up front to mount my ESC. So I stuck my battery tray in there kind of wedged midway, so it was mid-weighted. That way I've got kind of a little bit better balanced truck, because this thing likes to launch and go pretty airborne. And that way I've got a little more mid-weight with this heavy back end to kind of balance it all out. Run the LGRP tires on here, the Trail Kings. These ones are vented. I could use a little bit bigger holes. It handles nice, and I don't get a lot of bounce with the vented tires. It's more responsive and less bouncy. I could use a little stiffer foam. I have found that, like on the Comanche here, these tires are still sealed, so I get a lot of bounce with this truck. But the way this one's set up, the unvented tires work for it. It makes it handle nice, and it gives just the right amount of bounce to still handle everything with those stock shocks, with the addition of this hard body and this rear cage. Because that does add a fair bit of weight to this little thing, but it's got a nice bounce to it. It just moves good. So that's kind of why that truck's set like that. But yeah, the Gladiator needs the vented tires. It helps them immensely because with the Samix motor in here and running on the Tiku, this thing really, really rips. I could not get enough good modulation with the stock ESC, so that was part of the reason for swapping that out. Oh yeah, another thing a lot of people do in crawling that I do in racing, hack the front of my frame rails on this one, because this is dedicated pure race truck, and I wanted that nice clearance when I came down and bottom that suspension out. And as you can see with that low bolt kit, it sits nice and slim to start out, so it's got pretty good travel for stock shocks when we air it out. As far as motor recommendations go for KO24 racing, the Power Hobbies Shark motor, that's the #1 go-to. It's nice, it's a cheap upgrade, and it's perfect for these trucks for racing. You can run the living shit out of these motors. I think that's the only thing we've really burnt out is motors. And that's after months of racing and getting them hot enough that it's like, oh, sweet, I didn't want fingerprints on that finger anymore anyways. I've been running these Samix motors a bit lately, and these are pretty badass. They put a lot of ass behind your truck, but they also help your truck end up like this a lot too. But that could just be the way I drive. But this is just the right sweet power band. This is like dropping a big block in and being like, oh shit, watch what I can do. It is a great upgrade. I mean, that's why they both have it. And the Gladiator definitely sails better. And the Comanche, with its weight, when it lands with that big motor, likes to wheelie pretty good. It's pretty awesome sometimes. Now I know in the Succubus and in the LSL trucks here, they're running the Shark motors, and they fly. Like, this little Succubus rips. It sounds like a really pissed off bumblebee trapped in a pop can. And for some reason, like some of the Shark motors we've seen, they seem to run faster in reverse. I don't know if that's part of the reason that like this truck goes so good in reverse, or if it's just that Jen's a really good backwards driver, because this thing flies backwards. This truck flies all the time too. That's why it's 80 and negative 80. It's like flash and reverse flash. It's a pretty good battle usually, so we'll see on the next one who tops it out. And I don't know if anyone out there in YouTube land's got any questions or not. We'll hang out for a couple minutes and see, and if not, I think we'll call it. Thank you all for tuning in, learning about KO24 off-road truck setup, some of the basics. We get some nice weather, we'll have to get outside and we'll go out and do a basics on course setup. I know we've been needing to do that for quite a while. But here in the Northeast, like, we don't get a lot of nice weather, and we're getting ready to enter into the frozen hell time of year within the next couple months. So we just been soaking up all the sunshine we can get. Well, I guess we can call that good enough for tonight. I will check you all on the flip side. Have a great night, y'all.